Hey everybody, today I'm going to do something that's hopefully pretty interesting, which is start to finish the complete process for a 3D resin print. There are tons of, I would say, isolated or very specific how-tos. This is going to be the entire process beginning to end, and this is really geared toward new users that are either thinking about getting into resin printing, or people interested in it, or maybe in general new people that don't have a lot of information. I'm going to try to cover as much as possible. I'm sure to leave a couple of small things out, but I'm gonna try to document the entire piece from beginning to end, and I'll try to cover all of the equipment that I use, so that you can see all of the things that are at least the bare minimum to get this task accomplished. So let's get started, because this is probably going to be sort of a long-ish video. What you'll need to start, of course, you'll need a printer. I'm using the Photon Mono X. It's a medium-sized printer. Certainly, I selected it to have a bit bigger of a build size. There are less expensive printers out there, of course, that have different features and things. You pick your own, but of course, if you're going to do a resin piece, or if you're interested in resin printing, this is the one I picked after some research. I've been having great luck with it. I really am enjoying it. So, in any event, you'll need a printer. I have a whole nother video on all of the equipment that I use, but like I said, I'll try to cover this as I go along. So, printer, I think that's a no-brainer. Can't print without one. You'll also need some resin. This is what I use, Elegoo Standard Gray. I think most people would agree that it's kind of the bare bones or very basic type of resin. There's nothing too fancy about it. I agree with these things here. I agree that it has very low odor. I don't mind the smell at all. It does cure pretty quickly. It does have great fluidity, and I've had very consistent results with it. So, anyway, that's the resin I'll be using. You'll need resin, of course. Buying a printer doesn't come with resin unless you buy the bundle with resin. But you'll get, if you buy the Anycubic bundle, you'll get Anycubic resin. But sometimes the resin is on back order, and it might come separately from your machine. That was the case with me, and they were more than happy to just refund my money. I had purchased some Elegoo resin anyway. It does come in this awesome package, by the way. It's like nicely sealed, sort of. It's in a plastic bag in this sort of cushion air bubble bag in this box. I've bought I don't know, many liters now, and never had any leaking, any problems, any damage, anything. It's pretty well packaged. And I've been buying them from the official Elegoo seller on Amazon. You can order it from here too, I guess. But okay, so that's that. The next thing we're going to need is a model, of course, to print. So let's head over to thingiverse.com. I'm going to search for Selenium Malkin. Trust me. Okay. There's a lot of Selenium Malkins on here. The one I think might be great is this improved one. So let's click on this improved one here, or pick whatever you want for a model, of course. I'm going to grab this. You want to download it. It'll give you the advertisement. There you go. And let's open that up. So, typically, when you get these files from Thingiverse, you'll get some images. It'll sort of show you. Wow, this person printed it pretty big. But in any event, you'll sort of see what's been changed on the file, and what it's supposed to look like as a finished product. There'll be some information, who did it, those kinds of things. If you can and can't use it commercially, all those things. And then, of course, the files. So, Selenium Malkin improved and fixed Selenium Malkin improved. I don't think we want flat bottom. So, I wonder why this one's so small. Well, let's go ahead and extract all of these. Let's grab these files. Let's see what the difference is between the Selenium Malkin improved. Whoa. That is pretty big. So you'll see here, this obviously the red is outside of our print space, and this would be a pretty big object to print. So we can do a couple things. First, we hit R for rotate, or you can go click rotate if you are so inclined. I'm going to rotate this a bit. Oops. See if we can get that to fit. We have a couple of options now that I'm thinking of it. We could try to print this in a number of ways. It's S to scale. We're going to have to definitely scale this. I think we should cut this at least in half. Okay. That's cool. And then we can print it flat, and that will be disastrous because we'll have to put all kinds of supports under here, especially around these cannons and things. I see a lot of people printing it flat on this back edge and pointing it up completely. If we did that, I'm showing you what I'm talking about. I see a lot of people printing it sort of like this, straight up. And if we did that, it would be fine, but it's going to take a long time. As you can see, that would be sort of many hours worth of printing. If we wanted to print it sort of straight up, it would probably print okay. I'm wondering, though, if we maybe just tilt it a bit, if that'll be our best bet as a compromise to save time, but also not have to put too many supports and things. It's always a balance. It depends on the object that you're printing, of course, what you've decided to do. But I think I'm going to try to print it. Torn. Really torn. You should look over the object. Here's what we'll do. We'll let the support sort of gurus tell us here with this. Okay, so this is telling us, this is what I like to do. I like to come in here, do a fast search for islands, and if I find zillions, which is 160, that's pretty ugly, I would probably be inclined to go back to the layout, maybe tilt it up a little further. I don't know why I keep clicking that one by accident. Tilt it up a little further, and then go back to support. See if that pulls any of our islands out. Let's see. And we're still going to have some overhangs and things. There's going to be a lot of supports under here if we do this. Oh, we only got rid of a few. There's a lot under here. Well, let's see if everybody who's printing this straight up and down. Let's see what that looks like as far as islands goes. It's only 59, and it's kind of just these little bits. Okay, you know what? Let's do it. I think I'm gonna go straight up, but it's gonna be a pretty long print. So, how tall is this? If we go back to layout, we can get the size of this. So, if you hit scale, you can even change this to inches if you're bad at converting, like I am. The Y scale, this is like 4 inches tall, almost 3.77. That's probably going to take a pretty good chunk of time, believe it or not, on a resin printer. But let me just square this up, try to get it as straight as I can. I would like a good sized Selenium Malkin. So I'm going to take it down just a little bit in size. So let me bring it down to, let's call it 33.33%. Scale it down. That'd be like 2.5 inches. That might, that small you might lose some detail. Let's go with maybe 45%. 3.5. Yeah, just about 3.5. That seems like a good size. Okay, so we're gonna go with the straight up and down. I think there's clearly a giant overhang here, but the rest of this should support pretty well. So I don't know why it keeps dropping this back down here. Let's go. Whoa, man, 2,881 is going to be a fairly long print, but okay. And we got to raise it up a bit. All right, we just gave ourselves another bunch of layers. I just had a thought. We don't have to print it straight up. How about this? Let's pop back to layout for a second. Oh no, that would be worse because of these bits. Okay. Let's go back here. We're going to go with it. It's going to be cool when we're done, so it's worth it. Let's do, now that it's straight up and down, let's do a quick search for islands. Only got 70, and it's mostly, it's interesting that those are islands up there. But these look like they'll be okay. Of this, of course. And then we need to support all around under here. We're going to have to put some really decent supports around the bottom here, because it's going to have to hold, everything's going to be held down by this one edge. So I'm going to go with mediums. I tend to bring these down to about 0.45. And I'm going to go and generate some automatics. It'll save me some clicking, and this should be pretty straightforward. Should be pretty straightforward, although I don't like the looks of that at all, really. I don't like what it decided. I'm going to come in here and just put some mediums all across the back of this. Why? Because I don't want it to have to print. I don't want it to fall off of this. And all of this is going to be building right from here. So let's come around and put some supports. There's lots of videos on supports. I have a couple of support videos. Feel free to look around, and there's tons of different theory on supports. I'm in the camp of over-supporting because I'd rather do this. I'd rather have a couple of extra supports. You're going to have them all over the place anyway. You might as well have a couple of extra. That saves you some rework. I try to hide them as best I can in places that are sort of easy to snap them off. Let's see. Looks like, do we have some supports on the inside of this? What the hell? No, that is a no from me. Those are coming out of there. Okay. If we need supports on something like that, I will put them in myself. I'm going to give this another one right here. Some of these are for actually supporting the model in print. Some of these are for actually supporting the model because it will be upside down and moving around. So, let me take a look at that. I don't think that's too bad. I am using some mediums. I don't want to over-support. I have a bad habit of over-supporting sometimes, but I just I do want to just make sure that there's nothing that's like printing in outer space. And these angles it should be able to build. I probably could put a couple of, like something small like that, those little tiny supports on those overhangs. It should be okay. Okay. I think we're ready. This is going to be cool. Okay. I just realized there was another model we were looking at, but I think I grabbed the bigger one, the fixed one. Let's drag that in real quick and just see what that looks like, because I want to make sure we have the right one here. I don't know how this one is any different, actually. Let's do 45. To me, these are identical. It's a shame they didn't say. It's a shame they didn't say in the instructions what the, or in the files, what the difference was. To me, they appear to be darn near identical. Yeah. I guess I'm going to go with the one we've got already supported. I don't see a difference between these. So, chuck that. Okay, here we go. Next, what you would do is, and you see I'm ignoring 55 islands, but I did review them. And once you're done supporting your file, what you do is export it to a PWMX. That's for the photon. Add the settings you want. I like anti-aliasing. And I'm going to export this to... I'm going to export it right to my thumb drive. Okay, when this is complete, it will be written to my USB drive. And then what we'll do is we'll take it to the printer and get it set up and get the print started. I'll see you at the printer. This file will be on the USB. Okay, so next stop is, we've got here the USB drive. I'm going to pop it in. I tend to cover my my mono axe. There's no resin in it, but sometimes if I have resin inside, I like to make sure I keep it covered. So we have this. There is no resin in there, so we're going to show that whole process, start to finish. I have a heater here, just kind of a very standard, cheap heater. And you're going to wonder what this little setup is, but I'll tell you. So what I do is just put the resin on top of here, let it warm up for a bit. While I let this heater heat up, which it's already pretty warm, I'm going to get the rest of my stuff ready. What I'm going to do is hop over here and grab some gloves. These are not the greatest gloves. They are quite thin and break very easily and are terrible. However, they are good for something extremely light duty. For example, pouring some resin in the vat. That's about it. For anything heavy duty, I use these. I love these gloves. They're expensive, but they are way more durable. I think you can tell sort of just by looking at them. They're an entirely sort of different class of glove than this thing. So, in any event, they are available on Amazon, but they're pricey. So I use the cheap ones for sort of light duty work, and then the better ones for, you know, taking things apart, you know, real heavier resin work. Alright, so I also have some safety glasses. Popping those on now, just in case. You don't want to splash resin in your eye, because I'm sure that would make for a bad day. Alright, so we'll get some gloves going. Our heater's warming up. Got some resin down here, like I was telling you. We'll go standard gray. Just plop that there for now. Let that warm up a bit. What else can we do? While we're letting that warm up, go over what's the rest of the process. So after this heats up, and yeah, I've got it pretty close because I'm looking for it to warm up fast, but you don't want to leave this unattended. I'm keeping an eye on it, of course. So after that does its thing, some people also will warm up, just run this bottle under some warm water or something. You want to get the temp up. I've got you probably can't see my thermometer here, but it's saying 68. I would like it a little warmer than that. I'm sure the resin's a little cooler too. So we'll let that come up to temp, and then I'll take you through the rest of the process. Thought I should mention the machine itself is ready to go. I have the build plate on and zeroed out. There are plenty of YouTube videos on different ways to do that. I just use the instructions that came with the Anycubic, and it's been working fine. My vat is clean. I did a pretty big print the last time I used it, and so I made sure I cleaned everything out. So that's clean, ready to go, screwed in tight. I'll go over all of that in a minute. But the machine is, like I said, it's been sort of clean, and this is pretty much what you would be looking at had you set this up straight from the box, right? You'd pull it apart, you'd have some of these parts, you'd have to zero your build plate, screw your vat in, and everything would essentially be just like this. Then you'd want to get some resin, get it warmed up. I'll pull this lid off so you can get a better look at the inside. And so here we go. So here's the build plate. It's clean, it's leveled, it's on. This is all screwed down nice. And we can add ourselves some resin. Now, you can see here there's a max. It's kind of dark, but there is a max line for 500 milliliters. We won't need nearly that much for the model we're about to print. So let's add some resin. Grab this, give it a little shake. You can sort of feel it's still a little cool. It's really only been about not even 5 minutes probably. I probably should let that come up to temp a little longer. But let's go with it. It's not freezing in here. Like I said, it's like 68. I'm going to keep running the heater while this prints. So let's add some resin. We won't need a lot. Put the lid back on. It should be good to go. Now I'll kind of put this down here so you can see. Hit the power. Thumb drive's already in. So we go to the print menu. You can see our Selenium Malkin. And we just hit print. It says it's going to be 4 hours 24 minutes, and I've already got it on some fairly quick settings, but you see our print head goes on in. Obviously I'm not going to sit here and watch this for the whole 4 hours, but what you'll see is each layer by layer printing here. You can actually go into the settings and change them as you go. These bottom ones will take longer because I have it set for 33-second burn-in for 6 bottom layers. That will attach, hopefully, the whole model to the build plate pretty well. I'll also move my heater a little closer just to keep this warm. And off we go. So, we'll see how this looks in about 4.5 hours. I'll come check on it periodically and take a couple pics too. Alright, so as you can see, our print is complete. Total print time was 4 hours 24 minutes. Turn my heater off just for kicks. Turn this. Get this unscrewed a bit. A lot of people like to get some of the excess resin out of the way. It's just that much less that you have to clean up. So just push that off the edge there. There you go. And let's get a good look at this. It's looking pretty cool. Okay, plop this in here. And we'll head over to the cleanup. A couple of interesting things here. I like to use isopropyl alcohol in a spray bottle on a piece this size. I like to also get a couple of paper towels ready to go, because you're going to need paper towels. So I get some clean ones. I get some ripped in half over here already, because you're going to need a bunch of paper towels. Oh, one more thing. I've got my UV curing cabinet here. Usually while my hands are clean, I like to come in here and just get that thing moving. I'm not going to turn the UV on just yet, just because it's very bright and we don't need to do that. So I'll get that thing rotating, and once my hands are clean, I'll put it in there and get it rotating. In any event, we talked about some of those spots not causing us problems, and it looks like that's okay. Now there's some error inside here, but we'll see just how good it goes. So, one of the things I like to do, especially on a piece like this, I'm using the plastic scraper. I see so many people using metal. I think that scratches the heck out of your build plate here, and I don't find it necessary. I'm not attacking it like this. You're not, you're not chiseling something. I usually just place it right here and just give it keeping it relatively flat, give it a little bit of a wiggle, and then all I'm looking to do is sort of loosen this from the edge here, and you can see it start to peel up. Very slowly, take your time, and then, boom. As soon as you get one edge started, the whole thing just, piece of cake. So, here's our model. Looking pretty cool, right? And now these supports, if you remember when I was setting this up, I reduced the contact area of these supports. That's so that it won't leave so much of a mark on the model itself when I'm going to pop them off. They should come off pretty easily. Now, something delicate like this radar dish here, I might not, force them off with my bare hands. I may be inclined to grab these little snips. Something delicate like this, you don't want to waste your time. And sometimes I snip, sometimes I'm just encouraging them to detach, because sometimes even in the motion of snipping, you can break the part if it's really small and delicate like this. And people that do a lot of minis, boy, they must have a real good amount of patience, because I have a whole respect for people that work on these minis. They must be very delicate. Anyway, let's keep an eye out for anything that's attached. And sometimes you think you're free,
and you might not be. And you don't want to force anything. Just take your time around some of the delicate parts. And then this should come loose like that. And the rest of these should come off. If it's on something that's pretty stable, you can just pop it right off. Do you have any other delicate ones? No, these can come right off. These can all just pop right off here. They're on there pretty good, actually. Well, I think I used medium supports just because I was putting it up on end like this, and I didn't want it to detach. So you can see when we did those 6 initial layers, that's these bottom layers that were at 33 seconds. I think I did 30 or 33 seconds for this, and it adheres it to the build plate pretty strong. So that's the purpose of those, and that gives it good grip to hang this whole piece and sort of move it around like that. So in any event, all right, let's keep going. Ooh, there we go. See, sometimes the whole piece will just come off like that. Looks like I managed not to break my fins, thankfully. Here we go. Now, a couple of key areas we'll want to take a look at here. Let me just give this a spray. You'll see some of these details will really reveal themselves once we get this clean. Put that out of the way for now while I finish cleaning the rest of this. So this will take a minute. Hopefully it won't bore you to tears. Maybe I'll just cut some of this up. Essentially what I'm doing is the same thing here. You just want to clean your parts, clean your tools. I'm just washing my hands. Look at these cheap gloves. Really? See what I'm saying? Did that look particularly vigorous? No. So, that's a bummer. I guess I will change this glove out right now. So, why clean this? Because if you've got any resin, it should be clean and also dry. Because if not, you're going to get some weird shiny streaks. This has lots of little, they call them in the biz, greebles, which are all these little details. And so I'm going to give this another spray. I'll give this a spray down, especially because this is hollow. And I want to make sure there's no resin in any of these little cracks and crevices. So, and then just for kicks, I'm going to give it a quick brush. Very careful around these cannons and things. I'm going to give it a quick brush around to make sure there's no resin sort of just on the surface, because there's a lot of detail here. I'm going with the toothbrush. Now, give it another rinse. Sometimes what I do is I'll either just let it air dry, which is fine, for a little bit, or you can feel it with your hand too. It's just not so slick. I'll either let it air dry or I'll put it over in front of my heater, which I think I'm going to do now. So I've got a fan here. I'm just letting this this heat fan blow on this part so that it's dry. And check my printout. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. Pretty dry. Like that. And this is going to be blinding, but there we go. That's it. Now I usually set a timer on my phone, let it rip for a while, and come back and check on it. And let's see how we did here. If there's any remaining pieces where I put all those heavy supports and stuff. I usually come through with like an X-Acto knife and chip some of those off, but I think it did alright. Especially I was worried in here where we were trying to put supports. I didn't have too much to worry about. You don't want to over cure because it starts to get like a yellow tint, and sometimes you can make the part brittle, but for something like this, I think a few minutes per side is just fine. It's pretty small. I think it's looking pretty cool. Some of my models I just hit them with some primer. I have a nice high build gray primer. That seems to put a nice base. The details on this are so fine and so small. I don't want to build up too many layers of paint on this. It's only about 50 or so degrees Fahrenheit outside, which is not optimal for painting, but I find if I heat the paint up, heat the part up, I can bring this stuff outside pretty quick, zap it and bring it in, and the results aren't too bad. So, alright, so I just hit that with a really light coat. Like I said, it is cold enough outside where all I did was a couple of quick sprays. I love this can gun. Really changes the game for spray paint. You can see there's the old side. We managed not to lose any detail, which is good. I don't think I'm going to go more than one coat. For what I'm trying to do, I think one coat is going to be sufficient. I'm not trying to build up a high amount of color on this. Alright, so that's the other side. I'll go for a sort of a distressed look. So that'll be my next step once this dries. I have another technique I'm going to try. I have this stuff. Citadel Nuln Oil. I think it's going to achieve the effect I'm looking for. It's really just a stain. I've used a similar process for furniture, which is really just you paint it sort of a slightly brighter color and then hit it with a stain and then wipe it off, which is essentially what I'm going to be doing right now. Let's see. Let's do a spot like right here. This. Let's see. I'm going to keep going. I could have used a wider brush for this. I went with this narrow brush because I thought I would need it to get into the details, but this product is so loose that it really flows into the cracks nicely. I was actually gonna try this on a skull that I have, but I thought this was a much better test because this has so much fine detail here to really pull this in. Okay, cool. So I've got kind of this whole side painted. I want to just give you a before and after, I guess, of the product. And if you dab and really get it in those cracks, it does show up pretty nicely. Okay. Now I've just got a piece of paper towel here. I'm gonna just really gently pull it off. That's the side I just did. That's the plain white side for reference. I think that's pretty good. Alright, that's it. That's the whole start to finish. So we started with downloading a model and ended here. Hope you found this helpful. This is pretty much all the things and tools and techniques to get something very basic, start to finish.